I'll be sure to keep track.
Got it. We are about to be live. Good afternoon, all. I am John Powderly, the Grants and Planning Outreach Specialist with FEMA Region 9. It's 1 p.m. and welcome to the Drought Assistance Panel. We have three presentations in this panel. First, I'm going to start with a presentation on drought mitigation projects that could be eligible for FEMA hazard mitigation assistance grants. After I conclude, Christopher Pullman, FEMA Region 9 Tribal Liaison, will talk about assistance that's available from FEMA's National Preparedness Division, as well as some other possible federal options. Finally, Mr. Fethi Benjama will provide information on how the California Department of Water Resources can help communities in California with. So we hope we're providing good information about both near-term and longer-term drought assistance. Please let us know how we're doing and ask any questions in the chat. So, hold on, folks, while I try and share. Okay. And I've already, because of nerves, I've already gone through two of the first two slides. There's the contact information and today's presenters, as I just mentioned, John Powderly, Christopher Pullman, and Fethi Benjama. Now, the first presentation on drought mitigation. So what do we mean when we say drought mitigation? Real simple stuff until we get to the drought mitigation part. The drought, a deficiency in precipitation. The mitigation, activities that cause a long-term sustained reduction of the impact of disasters. Drought mitigation is activities that cause a long-term sustained reduction of the adverse impacts caused by the drought, the extended deficiency in precipitation resulting in a water shortage. Drought mitigation projects. There's a handful that FEMA hazard mitigation assistance grants can support. I listed the biggest three right here. Aquifer storage and recovery, taking water when it's abundant and putting it into an aquifer so that we can withdraw it later. Retrofit water systems. Many systems, but especially older ones, can be leaky. They can be unreliable. A retrofit of existing water systems to put in new hardware, put in new pipes that won't leak, that won't break quite as much, to perhaps reinstall them at a different depth so that they are more protected. That can be something that is drought resilient that may be able to be funded by a hazard mitigation grant as well. And finally, floodwater diversion and storage. The best time to save up on water is when there's a lot of water. And as it turns out, there's a lot of water generally when it's flooding. So if you can divert waters to storage, some sort of storage facility, whether it be a reservoir or a green storage facility, such as a floodplain or a wetland, and then also you could do that independently, but you could also pair that up with an aquifer storage and recovery project so that you get both the flood risk reduction and the water storage benefits. Now, when pursuing these projects, there are some considerations. First, the technical. Exactly how will the project mitigate the drought impacts? We need to understand when submitting a application for one of these projects, FEMA needs to understand how the project will mitigate the drought impacts. And when I say FEMA needs to understand, that's another way of saying you need to tell us how the project will mitigate the drought impacts. How much additional water will the project make available? Another big thought, are the water rights secure? Water rights are a very tricky issue, and if it's not very clear that the water rights for the project are secure, that's going to put a big weight on this, a big anchor on this, that will hold the project back. So you need to make sure that the water rights for the project are secure, and that you demonstrate, you provide documentation as part of your application. And then, how well is the aquifer understood? If you're pumping into the aquifer, where is that water going? Who has the rights to withdraw from it, and who is actually withdrawing from it now? Also, are there any chemical concerns such as arsenic leaching or other contaminants that can leach into the water? How is that? Is that an impact? Is that a concern? We'll need to know that. Environmental concerns. All federal agencies are required to consider the impacts of their programs. I'm speaking to the tribal EPA conference. I'm guessing y'all know this pretty darn well already. Drought mitigation projects can have potential for many environmental impacts. So when considering a project, you should plan accordingly for that. And finally, schedule considerations. FEMA grants, as a general rule, have a 36-month period of performance. If the design or the environmental data is not yet acquired, or if there's any a pretty significant controversy regarding the project, some more time may be needed. With that, you might want to consider an advance assistance grant that will allow you to develop the design and environmental data, develop the project further to get a better idea of it. And then after that advance assistance grant, you can pursue, if the project still pencils, you can pursue a project implementation, a construction grant. Standard application components for hazard mitigation assistance grants: scope, schedule, budget. Same, just standard project management. Anything, any project that you do, you would want a scope, schedule, budget. For your benefit cost analysis, as you know, all of these projects that for FEMA grants, they all need to make financial sense, get at least a BCA of 1. Water supply resiliency, that's a benefit. Should make that sure that's in your BCA. Possible reduced flood damages if you're using the floodwater diversion, that should be in your BCA. Even possible decrease in subsidence damages by putting water back into the aquifer, subsidence over time may be decreased or perhaps eliminated. That's a benefit. Count all the benefits that you can. And of course, the environmental and technical data, that which I listed earlier on the previous slide. We will need to see all the information that you've obtained to support the project's technical feasibility and the environmental review of the project. If you want more information for this, I want to hand this off to Chris Pullman real soon. But if you want more information on this, I strongly suggest that you attend the FEMA Grants and Training panel tomorrow at 1 o'clock. In that panel, you will get Jocelyn Madison Kelly, who is, I hope to know is half as much as she knows one day. And she will be able to provide a lot more information on FEMA grants for droughts and all other mitigation activities, mitigation projects that you may wish to pursue. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chris Pullman.
Hey, everybody. First of all, I wanted to apologize for Pamela Joe. She was supposed to be on this panel, and she was pulled away to a very important meeting with the tribes that have been affected by fire in Northern California. And it was important that she attended that. So I'm the pinch hitter here. I'm a tribal liaison for FEMA Region 9, as well as Pamela. We both are mainly focused on California, but I do help any tribe in the region that needs my assistance. The main thing that we do as tribal liaisons, I wanted to cover first on our National Preparedness Division. We do provide support to any entities that would like us to talk to them or to at least give them some links to programs that may be able to help them. We don't have a actual program that is tied to any type of funding out of national preparedness. Mostly we're a great information center, and Pamela and I both do everything we can to find grants that through the other federal family that may be able to help. But we also want to make sure that if you do need information, use us as a resource to find out what is available out there. And we also have a lot of different divisions in FEMA working towards this. Next, please. So this is some of the areas where you can go from. Obviously, as you can see, this is heavily put in the mitigation part of FEMA. That is really the only place that has actual grants available for this. We do have drought and some really good information on ready.gov. And also, because of the fact, as John mentioned earlier, most of these major projects are going to need some approvals by the which, as he also mentioned, you know better than we do, the environmental historical preservation area of it. So I did put the environmental historic and preservation helpline for FEMA on there, their email address and their phone number to go directly. But one group that has really stepped up has been USDA. Their disaster assistance programs, I've worked with them for actually decades across the country. Whenever there's damage from flood or whatever natural disaster, they really step up in help with farmers and also other folks that may need assistance. So next slide, please. One thing I really wanted to highlight here is that California State call once a month on the first Thursday of every month. It's mostly focused on tribal leadership, but I think it's especially what we're dealing with right now. I would definitely contact the state tribal liaisons and get this information. For those of you that are receiving the daily updates from the state tribal office, it's all the calling information and is right in that right there. So next slide, please. So this is the contacts for the state on your right, and then for us on your left there. Pamela is, most of you know her from working with the state, but she now works for us, so we're so lucky to have her. But I just wanted to say that I don't want to take any more time because it's very important that the state talks to you about their programs. So that's all I've got, John. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. I've stopped sharing. Fetty, Desiree, I trust that you are working to share the slides.
Yes, I will do that.
Got it. Thank you very much, y'all.
All right. Do you see my slides?
Yes.
Great. Good afternoon and welcome everybody, and thank you for inviting us to speak about the drought funding programs here at DWR. Following the budget bill of 2021 in late June, the department got quite a sizable amount of funding to help with drought emergency and communities impacted by drought. So I'll go through the programs, the objectives of those programs, who is eligible and what types of projects are eligible and how to apply. And then we can have some questions. So as part of the funding, I mentioned in the 2021 budget, there was $500 million earmarked for drought relief programs. And those are the Small Community Drought Relief Program for $200 million, the program at the bottom. And it's targeting specifically small communities who are mostly impacted by droughts, whether it is this drought or previous droughts. Always the small communities are the ones that suffer the most. So that program is specifically designated for those entities. In addition, there is another funding program for the urban community drought relief, and that's for urban agencies to help them cope and with drought. The third program is more of a multi-benefit, which includes, in addition to providing drinking water to communities, whether rural, small, or urban, it also includes other projects in addition that cover ecosystem needs and the like. So I will go over the eligibility of each one of these programs. So I will talk about the small community program as one, and the urban and multi-benefit program as one. The reason is, as you've seen, let me go back to the previous slide. As you see in this slide, the rollout is the small community program is underway already on its own. The urban and multi-benefit program have a common solicitation, which is currently underway, and the final guidelines are expected to be released soon. So $100 million from the urban and $100 million from the multi-benefit are being rolled out together. As I said, the draft was out. The final guidelines are expected in the beginning of November. The remaining $100 million for the multi-benefit will come out next summer. So I'm going to go over the eligibility and the purpose and how to apply for these programs or the ongoing solicitations. First, the Small Community Drought Relief Program. As I said, these are designated and targeting the small communities, which we specifically mean those communities that aren't served by an urban water supplier. And an urban water supplier in the state is defined as one that serves 3,000 or more service connections. So the small communities will be those that aren't served by an urban supplier. And in order to be eligible to apply for this funding, the project needs to be serving a small community. On the other hand, the urban and multi-benefit program will serve all communities of all sizes, big and small. Now, the purpose of the funding. As was made in the legislation and the trailer bill of the budget, these are meant to provide immediate and interim relief to ensure availability of safe drinking water to the communities. So that's the purpose of both programs, to address drought impacts. In addition, the multi-benefit component has addressing impacts that also goes beyond drinking water and includes multi-benefits such as ecosystem restorations and those kind of things. How to apply? The small community program is already underway, and you can apply right now. And this funding is on a first come, first served basis. So the sooner you apply, the better. It's non-competitive. So when we get the applications, we look into if there is a need, most likely you should get funding. There is a lot of help, and we do understand that small communities and small water systems lack the staffing, the funding, and the means to apply. So we try our best to accommodate the small communities. And even if you have an application, you aren't sure, contact the program and they will help you start the application. And the good thing is, once you apply and your application is approved, the department will issue a funding commitment to you to start working right away, even before a formal agreement is signed. The Urban and Multi-Benefit program, as I said, the guidelines or the draft guidelines were released, I guess, about a month ago. The public comment period ended in October 8th, and the program is planning to release the final guidelines and start receiving applications this coming month. Hopefully the beginning of the month, but again, the final is in the making, and stay tuned. And that's, as I said, that program gives funding to all communities of all sizes. The available funding is $192 million and $190 million for the urban and multi-benefits. That's subtracting the administrative portion of the funds. That's why it doesn't show 200 as in the previous slide. Another good thing is there is no cost share required under any of these programs. Let's go over a little more details on the Small Community Drought Funding Program and its objectives. As I said, it's meant to provide immediate and near-term assistance to the small communities to survive drought, in addition to implement some resiliency and infrastructure projects that will help in the future. So on the immediate need, we are looking at bottled water, hauled water, temporary community water tanks, water vending machines, emergency interties, and the like. The program also funds acquiring or building reliable water supply sources, such as wells, water system storages, replacing and fixing system distribution pipes, backup power, and also this is a late addition to the guidelines. The program will allow some drought resiliency planning, specifically water shortage contingency planning for the small water suppliers. The urban and multi-benefit drought relief program, it has a very similar objective and very similar eligible project types. Again, the immediate and interim drought relief types of projects, the temporary community tanks, the vending machines, the emergency interties, the hauled water, the bottled water is also there. This is will be made available to urban communities, similar to the small and rural communities. In addition to the resiliency projects such as new wells or rehabilitating existing wells, infrastructure related to water supply reliability. The added portion for this program is that it does give fish and wildlife rescue, protection, and relocation funding. As I said, it has the multi-benefit component added. In terms of drought resiliency planning, it will be allowed under the urban portion, but not under the multi-benefit drought portion. So who is eligible to receive or to apply for funding under these two programs? As you can see, the regular list of eligible entities, including public agencies such as counties, cities, joint power authorities, and so on, public utilities, special districts such as schools, irrigation districts, flood control districts, reclamation districts, and so on, college, universities, mutual companies, nonprofits, federally recognized Indian tribes, as well as state Indian tribes listed on the Native American Heritage Commission's California Tribal Consultation List. So, in addition to regional and local water management groups and so on. So all of these entities are eligible to apply. Now, when it comes to the small community funding, if any of these entities is applying, they need to make sure that the project serves a small community. An urban supplier can apply for the small community funding if they are going to implement a project that is specifically serving small community. Now, what is eligible in terms of expenditures and costs under these programs? Basically, all what it takes to implement an eligible project, from reasonable costs of studies, engineering, design, to the project implementation and construction, as well as any directly related work directly related to the project, and direct costs aren't eligible. Now, again, I will re-emphasize that the Small Community Drought Funding Program is underway. It's on a first-come, first-served basis. The applications will be accepted until the end of December of 2023. The small communities, again, are those that aren't supplied by an urban supplier. An urban supplier is one that serves more than 3,000 connections. Needless to emphasize, tribes are eligible under this program, not just because tribes are also small communities, and also tribes are eligible under the second program, which is the Urban and Multi-Benefit Program. For the Urban and Multi-Benefit Program, the project has to be completed by March of 2026. There is an applicant can ask for an advance payment of up to 25% if they demonstrate they have cash flow problems. In fact, this is allowed also under the small community drought funding programs. So if an applicant demonstrates that they have cash flow issues, they can ask for advance payment of up to 25% of the grant amount under both programs. The legislation or the trailer bill did waive the CEQA requirements for the department as a responsible agency. The small community funding, as mentioned, is already underway. Already 3 phases of funding awards are made. The first, I think, phase or announcement of commitments was made back in August 11th, and since then the total of phases are 3 phases of commitment awards totaling approximately $54 million. So we have about $140 million still left. We expect to have a 4th phase announced soon, and that will include approximately 15 or 16 additional projects. These 3 phases that are already committed for about $54 million are funding 25 small water systems across the state. As you see on the map, the first phase are the red numbers or squares. The second phase is the light blue or the jade or blue squares, and then the purple squares represent the 3rd phase of funding. I should have mentioned that my colleague Desiree is joining me here. Even though I did most of the talking, I expect she will entertain with me some of the questions. She is helping with the 2nd program, which is the Urban and Multi-Benefit program. When we get to the Q&A, Desiree will be helping me answer some questions. So how to apply the drought funding program? The small community, as I said, it's out there, it's ongoing. The final guidelines are posted. Please check and read the guidelines and apply as soon as possible. It's on a first come, first served basis. The multi-benefit and urban program, the draft is posted as well. Expect to see the final and the solicitation for starting the applications in the next couple of weeks or so. So check the guidelines and go ahead and apply as soon as possible. The urban and multi-benefit program won't be on a first come, first served basis. The program will receive the applications and they will review them and do the awards accordingly. Here are some contact informations or some contacts and resources. Our tribal liaison here at DWR, my colleague Anisita, is especially helping us with outreach to the tribes. We rely on her in that regard. Her email is here. The main drought web page for the state of California is listed here. The small community drought funding program email and the urban multi-benefit drought funding program email is all listed here. I'll leave it to that, and I will open the floor to any questions.
Fedi, thank you very much, sir. And also Desiree, thank you very much. Glad that you are here, both of you here, to help out with any questions that may come up. One real quick thought before we get to questions. Remember, folks, that both presentations are available on the download, the Excelivance download site for this breakout session. And within the presentations are live. So by downloading those presentations, you can link through to every document or website that we've discussed. With that, we have had one question about the link for small communities, which we've provided. Also, we provided the link for urban and multi-benefit drought relief funding. Are there any more questions from the attendees? We would love to answer questions if we can. I'm not seeing any, and that's very much okay. If we wish, we can certainly give you all back 10 to 12 minutes of your day, because we know there are more sessions coming up at the top of the hour. So wanted to check one more time. Are there any questions that you have for the panelists, either FEMA or California Department of Water Resources? Okay. Seeing no additional questions?
Let me mention one thing.
Yes, Fetty, please.
Since there are no questions. As part of the Small Community Drought Funding Program, and especially for emergency needs and immediate needs for impacted communities running out of water, the communities can apply directly, but if you have an emergency, be sure to contact the county OES right away. Eventually, they can help you with immediate needs, but also if you are applying for our grant program, that will maybe take at least little time, but for immediate needs, you need to contact your local OES. And also, we outreach to all counties, all 58 counties, in coordination with the state board. We try to have counties establish regional programs to help with emergency and immediate needs. Several of those counties have already applied for funding under the small community funding, and they are running such programs to help with immediate needs. So that's just an FYI for the communities.
Great information. Desiree, do you have any additional information that you'd like to add?
Yes, I'd actually like to also mention that the urban and multi-benefit drought funding will have a carved out set aside of $50 million for underrepresented communities and tribal communities that are currently participating in the IRWM Disadvantaged Community Involvement Program. So if you're aware of the IRWM program and the existing grants that we are funding for very, it's more outreach and planning type projects, get in contact with your IRWM representative. There is a carve out of funding. So this 50 million pot of funding is a bit less competitive than the remaining 140 million available, but you are, as a tribe, able to apply for both pots. Also, we are not doing a first come, first serve. as the small communities are doing, but we are accepting applications in batches. So we do anticipate releasing our final guidelines in PSP hopefully next week, and that will actually open up the solicitation process. So we will be posting phase dates on our website. So I provided the link in the chat. And we hope to actually go out with our first batch of funding early December of this year. The second sometime in January, and a potential third phase following that. So we'll have more information, final guidelines and PSP on our website. Feel free to contact us. Our email alias is both on the website and the PowerPoint presentation. We're happy to schedule any meetings. If anyone has any eligibility questions, whether it's for applicants, project types, we're happy to get in contact, have a phone call, and get you guys all set up for those applications.
Excellent.
Thank you, Desiree. I was reading the guidelines, at least the draft guidelines, which are posted online. The set aside is at least $50 million for those underrepresented and tribes. But also, as Desiree mentioned, the other remaining funds of $140 million can also be provided to underrepresented communities as well. So that's good.
We have a Fedi, Desiree, thank you very much. We have a question that has come in from Camille Merchant. Are tribes only qualified to apply if they are located on a low-income parcel according to the census, or are all tribes eligible?
All tribes are eligible. There is no eligibility condition related to disadvantaged communities. All communities in the state can apply for funding. And also, if anyone has information about, or at least old information in relation to the eligibility restricted to those communities that are part of counties declared under emergency in the initial governor's declarations, that restriction is removed and waived. All communities statewide are eligible for funding.
Okay. And I see a nod from Desiree as well.
That actually came in with an executive order signed yesterday by the governor. So we don't have any restrictions with that anymore.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, folks, we have a little less than 7 minutes remaining in this panel. So if there are any more questions, please put them in the chat. We'd love to answer them for you. And Camille, by the way, thank you very much for your question. Okay, I am not seeing any more questions coming into the chat. What I will say is close with a couple of thoughts. First off, we are here to help. We are here to give good information, at least the best information we can. We should all have profiles. I know I do. And so if any of the attendees wish to connect with us and ask questions afterwards, please do so. Go through the Excelivance platform to track us down and connect with us that way, or send us emails. All of our email addresses are in our presentations. Also, I'm going to take one last opportunity to plug tomorrow's FEMA grants and training panel. That's at 1 o'clock tomorrow. And that will be a very good explanation of HMGP grants, BRIC grants, and also preparedness training opportunities available for folks. With that, I thank you all. Can a tribe get funding for a new truck? I don't believe equipment is part of the funding. I know that question can be answered, at least for regarding FEMA. I know that question can be answered tomorrow at 1. Robertson, I will try and track you down and get that information for you. I don't believe that is so. I don't believe we can, but I will confirm that. With that, I don't see any more questions or any more hands from the attendees. Folks, thank you very much for attending this panel. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the conference, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you, John. Thank you,
Bye, all.
Desiree.
Thank you.